Welcome back to the Go Draft, elevating your screenwriting to the next level. My name's Andy Guerdat. I've been a working writer in Hollywood for 45 years, and I'm sharing with you my techniques for screenwriting and television writing. Sorry I was away for a bit. My grandchildren were in town, and grandchildren take precedence over everything else. We've been discussing up until now story structure, what a story is, and how to structure it. Now we're going to move on to the next level, which is the building blocks of screenwriting, the scene. There's a lot to discuss about how to attack scenes, so we're going to take it in chunks. And the first chunk that we need to address is, what is a scene? If you ask the average person what a scene is, he or she is probably going to say something like, well, there's two characters in a room and they're talking about stuff. If you ask the average actor what a scene is, they're going to say, oh, it's me and somebody else in a room talking about stuff. If you ask a line producer or a location manager, a cinematographer, almost anybody involved in the production of a film, when they say scene, what they mean is a location, the apartment scene. Then we're going to shoot the carnival scene. Then maybe later we're going to move the company across town and we're going to shoot the scene at the football stadium or whatever. It's a location. It's a place. Even Final Draft considers it a place. If you type in INT period, EXT period, what comes up? Scene heading. But those are not scenes. Scenes are not locations. They are not places. Not to a screenwriter. Other people can call it that. It doesn't matter. They're going to do it anyway, so who cares? As long as you don't think of it that way. To a screenwriter, a scene is a unit of information that advances the story through dramatic conflict. Now, because stories are the emotional journey of the protagonist, and our job as storytellers and our function on planet Earth is to make an audience feel something, that information, that unit of information we're talking about is emotional information. It's not technical information. It's not data. Very often I'm asked to consult on a screenplay or critique a screenplay. And when I do, I'll often come across a scene. I'll ask the screenwriter, I don't understand this scene. Why is it here? What is its purpose? And sometimes they'll say, oh, well, I just needed to establish, for example, that this character went to Harvard Law School. That's important to the story, so I needed that. I said, well, that's not emotional information. That's data. That is, in fact, exposition. So we don't need a scene for that. I would advise them to find a way to incorporate that into an existing scene that does have an emotional content. So, for example, there might be a scene where somebody says, hey, buddy, you're not at Harvard Law School anymore. This is the real world, so get it together. Mission accomplished. The exposition has been relatively gracefully placed in a proper scene that does have an emotional content. The scene can take place over many locations and over many time frames. It is not bound by a location or time. Here's an example from a great film, a Western called Little Big Man. And all you need to know is this: early in the film, a young white boy who is a children of settlers, pioneers, his family was massacred by a tribe of Pawnee and a tribe of Cheyenne, have come across him and have taken him in. And then this happens.
The next morning, I found myself in that Indian camp all alone. But the Cheyenne, who called themselves the human beings, had no idea to hurt me. I was an honored guest, and they gave me a real treat for breakfast. Boiled dog. Dog ain't bad, neither. Now, dog is greasy, I'll admit, but you'd be surprised how downright delicate the flavor is. Especially when you're starving. You see, the human beings adopted me as one of their own. Shadow that comes in sight taught me the bow and arrow and how to stalk game. Burns red in the sun showed me how to protect my pale skin from sunburn. It's a little known fact that some Indians, like Burns Red, will sunburn their own selves. But my real teacher was my adopted grandpa, old Lodgeskins. He taught me to read a trail, the Cheyenne language, and lots of other things. Oh, boy, it was a kind of paradise. I wasn't just playing in them. I was living in them.
Now, what is the unit of emotional information communicated in that scene? That he loved being a Cheyenne Indian. He loves it. That's the information. It takes place over many years, and it takes place over many locations, but it is one unit of information. And I'm sure the screenwriter Calder Willingham, who was working from a novel by Thomas Berger, that's how, in his mind, he approached it. I need to communicate this information. What's the best way to do it? He chose that. A montage over many years and over many locations and a voiceover. But it's one unit of information. And it's important information in this particular story because this character is going to spend the rest of his life bouncing back and forth between the white world and the native world, never knowing quite where he belongs. And the story will culminate at the Battle of Little Bighorn, which, if it sounds really cool, it is a great movie, and you should see it. Incidentally, as a side note, most of the clips from these movies I'm showing you are great films. Not all of them. Some of them are just good films. Almost none of them are any worse than a good film. And you should see all of them if you haven't. If you're lucky enough not to have seen them, you should experience all these great films that I'm showing you, plus many, many, many others. Here's another one. One scene. It's a classic scene from Citizen Kane, screenplay by Herman Mankiewicz and Orson Welles.
Well, after the first couple of months, she and Charlie didn't see much of each other except at breakfast. It was a marriage just like any other marriage. You're beautiful.
Oh, I can't.
Yes, you are. You're very, very beautiful.
I've never been to 6 parties in one night
Extremely
in my
beautiful.
whole life. I've never even been up this late.
It's a matter of habit.
I wonder what the servants will think.
They'll think we enjoyed ourselves.
Yes.
Didn't we?
I don't see why you have to go straight up to the newspaper.
You never should have married a newspaper man. They're worse than sailors. I absolutely adore you.
Oh, Charles, even newspaper men have to sleep.
I'll call Mr. Bernstein, have him put off my appointments until noon. What time is it?
Oh, I don't know. It's late.
It's early.
Charles, do you know how long you kept me waiting last night while you went to the newspaper for 10 minutes? What do you do on a newspaper in the middle of the night?
Emily, my dear, your only correspondent is the Inquirer.
Sometimes I think I'd prefer a rival of flesh and blood.
Oh, Emily, I don't spend that much time on the newspaper.
It isn't just the time. It's what you print. Attacking the president.
You mean Uncle John?
I mean the president of the United States.
He's still Uncle John. He's still a well-meaning fathead who's letting a pack of high-pressure crooks run his administration. This whole oil scandal.
He happens to be the president, Charles, not you.
That's a mistake that will be corrected one of these days.
Your Mr. Bernstein sent Junior the most incredible atrocity yesterday, Charles. I simply can't have it in the nursery.
Mr. Bernstein is apt to pay a visit to the nursery now and then.
Does he have to?
Yes.
Really, Charles? People will think...
What I tell them to think.
What is the one unit of information communicated in that scene? That he thought he loved his wife, and he thought his wife loved him, but not really. This marriage slowly dissolved over the years. In order to communicate that, Mankiewicz and Welles chose to attack the scene by showing a breakfast table and how it changes. Their breakfasts change over the course of their marriage as it disintegrates. If the story of Citizen Kane had been a love story about these two people, then he would have taken 10 scenes, 20 scenes, maybe 50 scenes, to communicate the slow disintegration of their marriage. But that is not what Citizen Kane is about. That is not the spine of Citizen Kane. And therefore, Mankiewicz and Wells correctly decided this piece of his life is only worth this much screen time, because the marriage really wasn't that important to him. This character's going to try to find love and meaning in life through many, many different avenues, and the marriage was just one of them. So that was a economical and intelligent and entertaining way to communicate the slow disintegration of a marriage without spending a lot of time on it. And it took place, obviously, over one location, but many, many years. Here's another one. One scene from The Graduate.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stared by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more, people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never share. No one dared disturb the sound of silence. Fool, said I, you do not know, silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might teach you, take my arms that I might reach you, but my words like silent raindrops fell and echoed the wells of silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made, and the sign flashed out its warning in the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls, the tenement halls, whispered the sounds of silence. Christmas. The autumn winds blow chilly and cold. September I'll remember. A love once new has now grown old.
Ben, what are you doing?
Now, in Buck Henry and Calder Willingham again, they didn't write together, but they wrote separate drafts. They were both credited. Probably Buck Henry wrote most of it, but we don't know for sure. Anyway, when they attacked that scene, that was the way they communicated the one unit of information. And what is that unit of information? That my character is drifting aimlessly between an empty affair and an empty family life. And it was attacked in that particular way. There's no dialogue, by the way, obviously. And if you want a really educating experience, there's a documentary called Harold and Lillian, a Hollywood love story. And in it, it features a guy, it's a documentary, a guy named Harold Michelson, who's since passed away, who was a great storyboard artist who storyboarded that sequence. And you can see in the film that he, in essence, directed that. Mike Nichols shot it, but Harold Michelson conceived it and in essence directed it in his storyboards. It's really fascinating. The point is, one scene, one unit of information can take place over many times and many places, as we just saw. However, you can also have more than one scene, more than one unit of emotional information that can take place in one continuous flow of time and place. You don't have to, every time you cut, it's not a new scene. And likewise, a scene can take place and can shift to a new scene in the midst of what appears to be one continuous flow of action. Here's an example from a movie called The Fabulous Baker Boys. And you really don't need to know too much about it other than these are two kind of lowbrow lounge piano players, and they've just recently hired a female singer to try to spice up their act. Here's the scene. Scenes, plural.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to a very special lady with a very special way of singing a song, Miss Susie Diamond.
What fucking switch? Pardon me. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here.
I work at the Palace Ballroom, but gee, that palace is cheap. When I get home to my chilly hall room, I'm much too tired to sleep. I'm one of those lady teachers, a beautiful hostess, you know, one that the palace features at exactly a dime a throw.
$10 a dance, that's what they pay me. Gosh, how they weigh me down. 10 cents a dance, pansies and rough guys, tough guys who tear my gown. 7 to midnight, I hear drums. Loudly the saxophone blows. Trumpets are tearing my eardrums. Customers crush my toes. Sometimes I think but it's a queer romance. All that you need is a ticket. Come on, big boy, 10 cents a dance.
So what's the first unit of information communicated? Number one, she's a total amateur, and she's going to be a disaster, right? She doesn't know how to turn on the mic. She accidentally curses in front of the audience. She accidentally rips her bracelet apart and it goes flying all over the stage. She has to get down on her knees to try to put it back together. She's a disaster. And then the two guys try to fill in for her, and she stands up and she starts singing, and that is the beginning of the second scene we just watched. And what's the unit of information? She's got a lot of stage appeal. She's gorgeous. She has a good voice. The audience loves her. Maybe she won't be a disaster. 2 pieces of information, 2 units of information, 2 scenes, 1 continuous flow of action. Now, could it have been in 2 different locations? It absolutely could have. Steve Kloves, who wrote and directed the movie, could have said, okay, well, I'm going to cut with her crawling around on the stage as a total disaster. Now I'm going to cut to another lounge on another night, and now she's gotten better. Oh, okay, same information would have been communicated, but in 2 different locations. He chose to keep it 1 continuous flow, probably for comic effect, and it worked very, very well. You can also use this technique for a dramatic effect, and here's an example from an Alfred Hitchcock movie called Rope.
Stupid, babbling drunk. I'm sorry, Rupert.
It's all right.
All right. If you really want to kill, you don't miss, not at that range. Of course he didn't want to kill you. He didn't know what he was doing, any more than he knew what he was saying. I didn't want anyone to know this, but he's been becoming an alcoholic, Rupert.
Brandon, will you step over there, please?
Philip's drunk, Rupert. Surely you don't take those nightmare ideas of his seriously.
Brandon, I'm tired. And in a way, I'm frightened, too. But I don't want to fence anymore.
What are you going to do?
I don't want to. But I'm going to look inside that chest.
Are you crazy?
I hope so. With all my heart, I hope I'm crazy.
Rupert, this has nothing to do with you.
I've got to.
Don't.
I've
Rupert.
got to look inside that chest.
All right. Go ahead and look. I hope you like what you see. No. Rupert, I couldn't believe it was true. Rupert, please.
Please, what?
Listen to me. Just listen. Let me explain.
Explain? Do you think you can explain that?
Yes, to you I can. Because you'll understand.
Understand?
Rupert, remember the discussion we had before with Mr. Kentley? Yes. Remember we said the lives of inferior beings are unimportant? Remember we said, we've always said, you and I, that moral concepts of good and evil and right and wrong don't hold for the intellectually superior. Remember, Rupert?
Yes, I remember.
Well, that's all we've done. That's all Philip and I have done. He and I have lived what you and I have talked. I knew you'd understand because you have to, don't you see? You have to.
Now, this is a movie that Hitchcock made based, Arthur Lawrence wrote the screenplay, but it was based on a play by Patrick Hamilton. And he, as a challenge to see if he could pull it off, Hitchcock decided to shoot the whole movie in one continuous flow, broken up by techniques to change the film magazine in his movie camera. This is obviously long before videotape or digital cameras. At any rate, he shot it like a play, and he wanted to see if he could do it all in real time and make it still visual and cinematic, and for the most part, he pulled it off. Scene 1, the first unit of information we just watched was the main character, played by Jimmy Stewart, growing suspicion that these two guys have killed somebody, and he's going to confirm it, and he does. There's a dead body in that chest. As he pulls up the lid of the chest and the screen goes to black, and then Hitchcock, being the master that he was, cranes the camera slightly up, and we're somewhat tighter on Jimmy Stewart's face now as he looks down in horror at the dead body in the chest. And then it begins scene 2. Continuous flow of action. And what's the information in the next scene of the clip we just watched? It's, you're guilty. Yes, we killed that guy for fun, but we did it because you told us to. You gave us, as a teacher, you told us that we were allowed to do this. And he realizes, oh my God, I inadvertently did do that. I'm guilty. 2 units of information, 1 continuous flow of action. Here's another example from Silence of the Lambs.
Are you close to catching somebody, you think?
Yes, we may be. Did you take over this place after Mrs. Lippman died, is that right?
Yeah, I bought this house 2 years ago.
Did she leave any records, any business records, tax forms, lists of employees?
Well, nothing like that at all. Say, has the FBI learned something? The police around here don't seem to have the first clue. I mean, have you got like a description, fingerprints, anything like that?
No, we don't.
Here's that number.
Very good, Mr. Gordon. May I use your phone, please?
Sure, you can use my phone.
Freeze! Put your hands over your head and turn around. Spread your legs. Spread your legs. Put your hands in the back. Thumbs up. Freeze!
Okay, 2 units of information. First one, oh no, I'm in a house with the serial killer. I accidentally stumbled right on top of him. Then, unit 2, next scene, the serial killer grabs his gun, ducks away into the bowels of the house, and she goes after him. Now we're starting a new scene. I've got to catch this deadly serial killer. And obviously that scene goes on much past what we just watched, but it's the beginning of a new scene, a new unit of information, 1 continuous flow. You see this quite often in thrillers because it's obviously more effective to keep that information as tight as it can be to increase suspense, which is what the screenwriter Ted Talley, I believe, and the director Jonathan Demme decided to do, and with great effect. So a scene can be many things, and it can be very, very simple. It can be completely nonverbal. It can have no dialogue at all. Sometimes it can even be essentially one shot. As long as that, however simple it is, as long as it contains a unit of emotional information that advances the story, it's a scene. Here's an example from Saving Private Ryan, which was written by Robert Rodat and directed by, obviously, Steven Spielberg. Okay, what's the unit of information? Out of all those thousands of dead bodies on Omaha Beach, one of them is important for some reason. That's the unit of information, and it communicates it beautifully. A long, slow overhead tracking shot pushing in on one dead body out of dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands, and on the back of his backpack is the word Ryan. End of scene. One unit of information, no dialogue, and for all practical purposes, one shot. It can also, a scene can have very limited dialogue. Here are some examples. Directly after what we just saw, the hard cut from the image of this dead man on Omaha Beach is to this.
Dear Mr. Brian Boyd, no doubt by now you have received full information about the untimely death of your son.
No words of mine can ever relieve the doubt that has felt his loss tremendously.
He was a fine soldier, and he believed very strongly in what...
It's no secret anymore that we were involved in one of the most important operations of this war.
Hal was the one who held us all together. He was always the first volunteer.
Came to a clearing near a road where over 4,000 troops attacked.
Your husband served with a combat unit whose dangerous duty is to place itself
in which we all cherish and hold so dear. The loss of Lee and others like him is a distinct blow to the
I fully understand your desire to learn as much as possible regarding the circumstances leading to his death.
Colonel, I've got something you should know about.
Yes?
These two men died in Normandy. This one in Omaha Beach.
Sean Ryan.
This man at Utah.
Peter Ryan.
This man was killed last week in New Guinea.
Daniel Ryan.
The three men are brothers, sir. I've just learned that this afternoon their mother's going to be getting all three telegrams. That's not all. There's a fourth brother, the youngest. He parachuted in with the 101st Airborne night before the invasion. He's somewhere in Normandy. We don't know where.
Is he alive?
We don't know.
Come with me.
Now, how many scenes did we just watch? We watched 2 scenes. The first scene that we just watched is, oh, that's why this guy on the beach is so important. Oh, because he's one of several brothers who all died within days of each other. That's the first unit of information. Second unit of information is their poor mother is going to be crushed by this. Absolutely devastated. She thinks that priest getting out of the army car is going to come and tell her one of her sons is dead. He's going to tell her all of her sons are dead except for one, which is going to then motivate the next scene, which is the army brass deciding we have to get that guy, the last remaining Ryan brothers, got to get him out of there somehow, because nobody, them or the audience, wants to see that poor old farm lady fall on the porch again. And it's interesting, by the way, that porch scene, if you noticed, if you've watched the prior episodes, where did Spielberg steal that shot from? He stole it from John Ford and the Searchers. And in the prior scene, he stole a bit from Citizen Kane when he had one of the typists in the foreground steps up in silhouette, framed in the foreground, to look into the window, thereby forcing your attention into the window to wonder what is on that piece of paper. He stole that from Citizen Kane, where Wells constantly used the silhouetted silhouette, the silhouetted image of the reporter as a way to focus your attention on what was really important, which was what was happening in the background. And you noticed how withholding information, as we talked about, is more powerful than revealing it. Spielberg just proved it when he delayed by having the secretary and the typing pool go from person to person to person, and we go with her and them, but we don't find out what's on the piece of paper until they finally end the scene by revealing it. It was quite powerfully done. And I would ask you, which of the scenes, all the scenes we just watched from Saving Private Ryan, all of which happened consecutively, which ones were the most powerful? Was it the scene on the beach, we're pushing in, is a very powerful scene. The scene on the farm woman walking out onto the porch to get what she knows is going to be horrible information and is going to be worse than she even suspected. Incredibly powerful, not a word of dialogue. Even the build-up to this other scene where we're going in the typing pool, the build-up is much more powerful than the reveal when they finally do have a dialogue scene with a young Bryan Cranston, by the way, in which we learn the significance of the dead body on the beach. That scene or the section of that scene, the dialogue part, is probably the least effective. It's something to bear in mind. We're going to come back to this later, but it is something to bear in mind. You will likely find yourself, especially if you haven't written a lot of material that's been produced for the screen, you will likely find yourself defaulting to dialogue. You're going to find yourself going to dialogue first when you're saying, how am I going to make this clear to the audience what I want? Well, I want to show that they love each other, so I'll just have them say, I love you. That is the worst way to do it. Doesn't mean you could never write the words, I love you, but it's the least powerful way to do it. Dialogue is very tempting because it's easy, it's fun, and actors love it, especially bad actors. Bad actors love more lines. You know you're in the presence of a really good actor when they say to you, cut this, I don't need this, I can do this with a look, I can do this with a gesture. Those are the really good ones. But it's very tempting to go to dialogue first. It is your least effective tool in your cinematic arsenal. So if you find yourself, your first impulse is to start writing dialogue, stop and ask yourself, can I do this more effectively visually? Think about what we just watched in Saving Private Ryan. Okay, we'll come back to lots more about visual storytelling, but right now we need to turn back to what a scene is. And here's a little exercise for you. See if you can tell me, in your opinion, how many scenes are in the sequence we're about to watch.
you back, Captain Carlson.
What do you think, Angelo? The tomatoes are ripe this afternoon. Well, what have we here?
Can I have your autograph?
You betcha.
Can I have your autograph too?
You gonna be a pilot?
Hmm?
All right, then. Here you go. Work hard in school.
Hello. I'm Frank Black from Monroe High School, and I have an appointment with Mr. Morgan.
You're the young man who's writing the article for the school paper.
Yes, ma'am, that's me. I want to know everything there is to know about being a pilot. What airports does Pan Am fly to? What does a pilot make in the air, and who tells them where they're going to fly to?
Whoa, so just take them one at a time.
All right. What does it mean when one pilot says to another pilot, what kind of equipment are you on?
I just want to know what kind of aircraft you're flying. Is it the DC-8, 707, Constellation?
And what about those ID badges that I've seen pilots wear?
Well, every pilot has to have two things with him at all times. One is his airline personnel badge, looks just like this one here from Pan Am. The other one is their FAA license, and that looks just like this.
Oh. Do you think I can make a copy of this to put into my article?
Oh, Frank, you can have that one. It's 3 years expired.
Oh, thanks. And what about your ID badge? Do you have an extra one I could borrow?
Oh, no, I can't help you there. It's a special order from Polaroid. The only way to get one of those is to become a real live pilot for Pan American Airways.
Pan Am, may I help you?
Hello, I'm calling about a uniform.
Hold for purchasing.
Thank you.
Purchasing.
I'm a co-pilot based out of San Francisco. I flew a flight into New York last night, but the problem is I'm headed out to Paris in 3 hours.
How can we help you?
I sent my uniform to be cleaned through the hotel, and I guess they must have lost it.
They lost a uniform. Happens all the time. Go down to the Well-Built Uniform Company at 9th and Broadway. They're our uniform supplier. I'll tell Mr. Rosen you're coming.
You look too young to be a pilot.
I'm a co-pilot.
Why so nervous?
How'd you feel if you lost your uniform first week on the job?
Relax. Pan Am's got lots of uniforms. It's going to be $164.
Great. I'll write you a check.
Sorry, no checks, no cash. You'll have to fill in your employee ID number, and then I'll bill Pan Am. I'll take it out in your next paycheck.
Even better. Dear Dad, you always told me that an honest man has nothing to fear, so I'm trying my best not to be afraid. I'm sorry I ran away, but you don't have to worry. I'm gonna get it all back now, Daddy. I promise. I'm gonna get it all back.
Are you a real live pilot?
I sure am, little lady. And what's your name?
Celine.
Celine, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you too.
Okay, there were, by my standards, 3 units of information in that sequence. 3 scenes, in essence, in that sequence. And it's a beautiful sequence. The whole movie, by the way, Catch Me If You Can, is beautifully written and beautifully directed by Spielberg and written by Jeff Nathanson. And it's even if the subject matter isn't particularly exciting to you, it's so beautifully done that it's a movie you should see and should study. There were 3 units. The first unit is, if you know the story at all, he's a teenage kid who's run away from home, but he's got a natural instinct as a con man. And so he's trying to figure out how he's going to survive, how he's going to get the things he wants. So the first unit of information is, hey, maybe I could, if I became an airline pilot, I could get all the stuff I want. What does he want? He wants money. He wants a little bit of power, and he wants women. And it sure does look like that's how I could get what I want. End of scene. Scene 2. I'm going to set out to become a fake airline pilot. And we see him talking to a secretary. We see him talking to the mid-level business guy at Pan Am. We see him conning a uniform and all that. That's all part of one scene of him becoming a fake pilot. Scene 3. I've succeeded in becoming a fake pilot, and now I've got all the things, or pretty close to all the things, that those other guys got. It worked. 3 scenes in one sequence. That's how you attack a screenplay. What is the information in this scene that is going to advance my spine? Then how do I most effectively communicate that information? So this is the process. What, then how. What am I trying to communicate? How do I best do it? What, how, and you're going to what and how your way through your entire outline until you've completed the screenplay. So we're going to start launching into the how, which means the many techniques of attacking scenes, coming up next.